Your volume's on. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight. We've got a great, exciting episode tonight with a good friend of ours, Mark Armstrong, who you'll find out and get to know more as we go through this next hour. But, you know, Mark in 2013, prior to that, and we'll let him talk about that, but prior to that, had this real sense from the Lord that he was to prayer walk the whole of the land. So we'll ask Mark why and how long it took him and what encounters did he have with the Lord and what impressions he got.
Did he have any regrets?
Yeah, I'm sure there's been a few, but, you know, so it's literally 10 years ago, Mark was actually in full swing walking this walk. And so we're going to bring him on here in a second or two and actually start asking him some questions. If you've got questions, fire them in the chat box and let's see what happens tonight. Mark's pumped and ready to talk about it. So if you've got your phones with you tonight, log in to either Freedom Fire Ministries Facebook page or onto the YouTube channel or onto my personal Facebook page, and you'll find us will be operating and live on the three areas. So pick it, take it, share it, and send it out to your friends and ask them to come on tonight and watch, which is going to be a really interesting night. Yeah.
So we met Mark, when we were kids.
Bible college.
When we were kids at theological college, and we were like newly married, and I think I was maybe pregnant with our first child when we met, or just had our first child. And Mark came in as this crazy student in his kit car. The Dutton, wasn't it? The Dutton.
Yeah, it was a Dutton.
This Dutton
black Dutton
that he built up, and his long hair and his beard, and he just looked super cool. And we clicked right away, didn't we?
Yeah.
Way back then. So that must be like what, 36 years ago now.
Long time ago now.
So, you know, I know we still look like kids and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But hey, you know, it's been a great journey in life with Mark and his lovely wife, Angie, and their kids. So we'd like to introduce Mark to you now and just bring him on screen.
Gillian, I'll send you that $5 over shortly for actually putting that comment on.
Yeah, Gillian, you get brownie points. Come on.
Right. Well, let's bring Mark in. Welcome, Mark Armstrong.
Woo-hoo!
Come on.
Come on.
Great to have you with us because you're living up in Lower Bentham now, up in Yorkshire.
No, still High Bentham.
But it's low part of High Bentham, isn't it? I get confused with it.
Yeah, needless to say, we've just moved, so
yeah. So it's great to have you on, Mark. It's been such an amazing story, and the fact that this is 10 years since you actually did this walk, it's just going to be amazing to talk about it tonight and just share stories about why didn't you lead us in? What prompted all this, and how did that?
What prompted it all?
I want to hear it from your words.
Well, you prompted it. We met at Bible college, I would say, at the best part of 40 years ago. And we'd lost touch because I'd moved to Yorkshire. I'd lost your contact details, and we met up on Facebook. Yeah. And you were in America, I think, or were going to America and traveling down, I don't know. Anyway, you'd come back from America and you were traveling down from Ireland, I believe, and decided to call in and see us.
Yeah.
And you told us all about what you've been doing in America, listening to Lou Engle speak about having stadiums full of young folks. And you just mentioned the idea of prayer walking. And prayer's always been on my heart. I mean, as every Christian, but it's prayer, I think, is my thing.
Yeah.
And you talked about walking the land, and it just resonated with me about walking from John O'Groats or Land's End to John O'Groats. And the idea wouldn't stop. I couldn't shake the idea of doing this. So I think I kept it quiet for quite a while because I felt like I was stealing something off you, an idea that you'd had that you might do this and you might also walk around Ireland. And so I kept it quiet for a while, but it just would not go away. And eventually I started to just share the idea. And instead of the response that I thought I might get of, oh, you must be crazy, people were, oh, that's you, Mark, that is. So that's where it started.
Brilliant.
Pardon me.
40 years, man.
Wow, come on.
No, it wouldn't have been quite because we were only married that long. So I think maybe 36.
Yeah.
How long are you guys? How long are you married, Mark?
Well, I wasn't married when I went to college.
No.
I was about 23.
Yeah.
And I'm 63.
Wow, come on, 40 years ago.
Flip.
We were in the days when Moorlands Bible College still had the old building standing.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I can tell you, it was 1984. So it's 39 years ago.
Wow. Come on. And how things have progressed since then. And
we don't look any different, do we?
No. But we're a lot older, a lot wiser.
I'm not older.
Sharon, you still look great.
Yeah, I know.
So, Mark, what about your family? So, who you married to, how many kids? Tell us a little bit about your background.
I'm married to Andrea. I met her at the first church that I became a member of, which was the Baptist Chapel in Ibstock in Leicestershire. We were very good friends for a long while before we got married. Got married in 87. Better get this right. Got married in 87 and have 4 children, 3 boys and a girl. All grown up and left home, left us on our own. So yeah, my wife currently looks after people with end-of-life care. So people that are struggling at home to manage, she'll go in, help them cook meals and that. And then if it develops into a real end-of-life situation, she nurses them and, so that's what she does. And all the other kids are doing their own things. I've got a chef. I've got a guy, my second son's running a business converting camper vans. Jacob, my third, is a welder and fabricator. And Naomi's just passed all her fitness exams to become a personal trainer.
Yay!
Come on,
Naomi.
Come on. And grandbabies?
Loads of girls and 1 boy.
Wow.
We've got Isla, Bella, and Violet. They're Nathan's. That's the oldest. Then we've got India and Billy. They're Ben's. And Ruby and Logan.
Wow.
I'm just counting up how many girls and boys we've got.
Yeah, so
we've got a few. There's a friend of yours on tonight here, Mark, your brother-in-law, Stephen.
Hi, Steve.
Which we've got a little video clip of you later on, Stephen. You're going to see yourself on screen.
Yeah, so be warned.
Yeah, you're pre-warned, Stephen. But it's all good. Yeah. So listen, Mark, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the little promotional clip that you have made to make people aware of the journey that you're about to embark on and hopefully raise some funds for that. So watch this here as we go through.
8 girls, 7 boys.
8 girls and 7 boys.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Come on. Here we go.
My name's Mark Armstrong. 2013, the end of April, I'm going to be walking the length and the breadth of this land. I'm going to start in John O'Groats, I'm going to end up in Land's End, and I'm going to climb the 3 major peaks. While I walk, I'm going to pray for this land. I'm going to pray that God will pour out His blessing, and I want to join with other people to do the same. Along the way, I'm going to call in Iona and Lindisfarne, centres of Celtic heritage of this country, of this land, because I feel that that is important. I want to mimic or replicate or mirror their style of Christianity, to walk out, to go where they feel God's sending them, and to take the good news, to pray for the sick, to feed the hungry, and so on. I'm going to be praying that God would pour out his blessing upon this country, that he'd pour out his fire of revival. I want to meet with other Christians who will join me in prayer, in pleading with God to raise up this land once again as a Christian nation and to give life to people in this country. If you're interested in what I'm saying, if you're interested in getting involved, I've got a Twitter page. Look at me on my website, contact me via email. And I'd love to connect with you if that's what you're interested in. Thanks for listening.
Wow. Does that bring back some memories, Mark?
Just a few. I will say that none of those addresses at the end of the video will work anymore.
Yeah.
So that people don't follow them. I lost all my all my logon details for Twitter and couldn't retrieve anything. I lost all the things that were on Twitter.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway.
So there you go, folks.
Right.
Hot off the press. Don't try following any of those links at the end of that video.
Yeah. So how did watching that all these years later make you feel?
How did it make me feel? Quite proud, actually, that I managed to do something. Excited, humbled, all sorts of feelings, Sharon, all sorts of feelings. Made me think about things that I thought were going to happen, the way in which I thought it might pan out, and it perhaps didn't. Mm-hmm. I didn't climb the 3 highest peaks simply because it just didn't happen. And I guess that was down to the planning as much as anything else. But circumstances when we got to certain place, Ben Nevis, it just was not possible to do them. So I decided that was perhaps more to do with my own want than what God was doing.
Yeah, because I remember us sitting and we were online with Naomi or Andrea, and you were on the phone, and we were saying, Mark, if you go up that road a little bit further, there's a 5-bar gate.
Oh, he's trying to find somewhere to stay.
Climb over that, and around the back of the trees, there's a beautiful spot you can pitch your tent. We had some crazy nights trying to give you, with Google Maps, trying to give you directions of where you could go and stay safely for the night off the road. That
was an incredible night. That was.
And then there was a pile of cows in the field, wasn't it, in the morning when you woke up?
Yeah.
Like you could have been trampled.
That was one of the most crazy, I would say, nights that I had, the one with the cows.
Yeah.
Because I was having a frustrating time trying to find somewhere to sleep and pitch my tent. This was in the what did they call the lowland uplands? Yeah, it was across the borders anyway. And I was walking from the Isle of Arran across to Lindisfarne, and I had 3 nights in a particularly, what I would say, dark area. I'd always wanted to walk and stop in a bothy. But the first night, I just got this feeling that was somebody, nobody about, but I just got this feeling that somebody was watching me. I felt very uneasy.
Yeah.
The next night, I went to another bothy, and that was even worse. I was just uneasy, and if it hadn't been for the fact, I prayed about it, but there was an uneasiness there that I had to grit my teeth and say, I'm not being removed from this house. I'm stopping here until I'm good and ready to go, because Jesus has got the victory and whatever is here. But that night that I stopped in the tent and heard the cows, I'd had difficulty finding a place that I felt comfortable. And I sort of not got angry, but I was saying to God, come on, what's this peace all about? Give me some peace, because I feel uneasy. And I just felt this real sense of peace come over me. And God said, I'm looking after you. You'll be all right. Well, I pitched my tent. There was a lovely little spot. When I got in the tent, I pitched it right over a little sort of trough in the field that, it just fitted me. It was like sleeping in a bed.
Yeah.
I woke up in the middle of the night screaming, but I got no voice. And my hands were flailing about, and the tent was ripped, and there was an animal outside the tent. And as I tried to get my voice and scream, I woke myself up. I was actually dreaming this thing. And I heard, this wasn't in the dream, I heard a gate clanking. I heard something move away from the tent. And I sensed that there were three angels, north, south, east. There were three around me, but one was fighting something and driving it away. Yeah. And if it hadn't been for that moment of talking to God and receiving his peace, I don't know how I'd have continued to sleep, but I just remember God saying, the cows are not going to hurt you. They're not going to come near you. Go back to sleep. And I just went back to sleep. Mm-hmm. When I got up in the morning, I was quite surprised, nightmare, vision, whatever it was very, very uncomfortable. And to have just gone back to sleep again like that was obviously the peace of God that came on me.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
I remember that night. I remember you calling us the next day. Well, actually, you called us that night, didn't you, to pray?
Yeah.
Because of how you were feeling. And the next day to tell us what had happened in the night. And there was definitely, a spiritual battle. There were definitely demons on assignment, to break your journey and to break your spirit, I think, and to create a spirit of fear within you that God didn't allow to happen, which was amazing,
Yeah. I guess it differed from the other things that were trying to influence me and stop me, which was being abandoned. I had an incredible sense of being abandoned when I'll just regress a bit. When I first started, I had a friend that stayed with me for about 4 days, and he shipped me to John O'Groats, and I walked from John O'Groats to Thurso. I remember finishing the day and having a bath and going out for a meal at night and thinking, I can't walk. My hips were that bad, and I thought, man, I've got to man up here and walk straight, or otherwise my mate will just say, you are never going to do this.
Yeah.
Right, that's just an aside. But he stayed with me, and then he ferried me back to a bed and breakfast, and I had quite a lovely 4 days, bed and breakfast in the morning, big breakfast, going out, come back, have a shower, ready for the next day, just to break me in. But the day that he left and he drove off, I had an incredible sense of loneliness. It was difficult to explain, but I just felt like I'd been deserted.
Yeah,
I know I wasn't. I know all that, but all my feelings said, "You've been deserted, and where are you?" And all the thoughts of, well, grief. You're in the middle of nowhere, and yet it was what I wanted to do, and I couldn't understand. I did have trauma in my childhood. I don't particularly want to say too much about it, but it was a moment of feeling like I'd been abandoned and left. And I thought that's what it was. I thought I was actually being left as a very, very small child, and it brought all those feelings back. In fact, every time until towards the end, I had some company, and that company left me. I felt very much the same until I could recognise where it was coming from and deal with some of the issues.
Yeah.
After a day or so, I'd be all right because I was on my own anyway, and it was just I got my head somewhere else and walked. But yeah, so it's not surprising that he tried another tact to stop me doing it.
Yeah,
you know?
I remember you had all of your plans and your walkways all marked on maps, and because when you came down and shared at church about it, all the details was there. Well, this is where I'm going to be heading next, and I'll be going across here. I'll cross Hadrian's Wall, and so you knew exactly where and what areas you wanted to get to. But even in the midst of that, even though you were so planned and so set on your journey because you knew it was of the Lord, but yet you had still those encounters of fear and loneliness that came on you, and yet you were aware of what you were walking into.
Yeah.
I remember when we were completing, we walked apart with Oban with you, and then we did, where were those stones?
They were just outside Oban.
We went to the stones.
Kilmartin.
The tombs, and we went down into the tomb. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And then we were crossing this heathland. Do you remember we stepped on all the stones across the heathland area? And as we were going over those stones, I remember you said to me, "I'm dreading you guys leaving." And I'm like, "Why?" And he said, "Because I feel abandoned every time someone leaves." And I remember we stopped right in the middle of that heathland, and we prayed for you right there. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And it was such a moment, and it was all to do. It went right back to that moment, and that was a major thing that God wanted to give you victory over throughout that walk. That was a personal win, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, that God wanted. It wasn't just praying for the land, but actually God wanted to heal something very deep inside of you in that process as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. And the night you were talking about where you looked on Google and directed me, that was, I believe, the following night.
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, we'll get more into it in a few minutes, but I mean, your encounters, and I mean, to do a pilgrimage of what amount of miles did you cover, Mark, or with that sort of?
I think it was nearly 1,900 miles. It wasn't the simple Land's End to John O'Groats. It was, it was all the way across the country. You were saying about planning. For a start, there was a lot planned. The route, probably all the way down, I knew where I was going, all the way down to more or less the Isle of Arran. But after planning, I had my youngest son. He was real keen on doing it, but he went to Australia to follow his now wife, and so he left while we were planning the route, and I felt somewhat overwhelmed, and perhaps it was right to be with the enormity of trying to find all the different places. We used to spend hours looking through Google Maps and trying to find a camp spot, by following the road down and find somewhere to camp. And in the end, God said to me, just go and start walking. Don't worry about anything else. Go and start walking. Although I had an idea where I was going, and I knew exactly for a start where I'd be going, which gave me a bit of comfort.
Yeah.
But then after Arran, I really had got a great deal. Although I had traced a map out, it was really, okay, this looks good, let's follow this way. And that's how I
did it. Yeah. I mean, we'll probably bring up later about how, because I'm sure there's questions, and get your questions in, folks. Be question. I'm thinking that maybe some people are thinking about, Mark. Well, like just under 6 months. How did you afford to live? How did Andrea and the kids survive when you're the main breadwinner and you weren't there earning the money? So what did you do to compensate that? How did that work?
Well, it was hard. It was hard for Andrea, very hard. She got no idea where money was coming from. I really hadn't. So I appealed. I could have perhaps had a much better financial standing had I allowed people to, how can I say it? Had I allowed others to have been a part of the process. I don't want to be, yeah. If others had got involved, I could have perhaps had a banner over the top of me with denomination or whatever, and it would have drawn on a greater resource. However, I really felt that it was not to be seen as something that was in one stream or another. It was what God had called me to do, to pray for the nation, to pray for the land, to walk. And, Moses walked and God said, take off your shoes, you're on holy ground.
Yeah.
I felt I was taking God across Britain, across Great Britain. And where I put my feet, God was going to be there. So it was holy ground. And I didn't want that to be limited within a stream or a denomination. I wanted it to be open. Not for me. I didn't want it to be Mark Armstrong. I was doing this, because God had called me to do it. And it was tough. It was tough on us all.
Yeah. I mean, that those days of all that navigating and putting out. So, people did sow in because they had got the links. They were able to say, look, I'm just going to give this much in, should it have been a $5 or a $10? And people did give in, Mark, because they realized, well, number one, you'd started, so you'd shown, well, I'm not just talking anymore. I'm actually on the road and I'm doing this because God has asked me to pray and to walk. And like the opening part of that scripture in Genesis says, everywhere the soles of your feet will tread, you're taking ground and territory for the Lord, backing it up with prayer. So you were like a modern day pilgrim, a father in the faith, just walking the land. And I mean, you had loads of hours where you had time on your own with the Lord, just with your own conversation, your own prayer times. How did you feel? Was there any particular times that you really sensed a greater presence of the Lord surrounding you?
Can I? I'll answer that in a minute. I just want to say I am really grateful for everybody that helped me do it. I want to say, put that out there. I am really grateful for anybody and everybody that gave into it to do it. Walking with the Lord, that's why my strapline was touching the past, shaping the future, because that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to walk in a way that every day was with God, that my thoughts were focused on that. No matter what I was doing, I was trying to develop that attitude of not getting into the busy things of the day that you don't consider it worth presenting to God.
Yeah.
He's interested in everything that we do, whether the monks have got, the Celtic monks have got prayers for lighting fires, for drawing water, for starting the journey, for middle of the journey, for ending the day, the end of the journey. Everything about their life was, God was in it. And that's what my journey was about, really. And yes, there were times when I really felt God speak to me directly, and really have a sense of his heart. One was right at the very beginning when I was up on the north coast near Dounreay Power Station. It was at the time of the Scottish referendum, and I felt God saying that it didn't matter about nationality. What he wanted was a nation united under his son Jesus. And it, I thought, the more, it's still with me that is God's desire, that we would be united in a way that borders and boundaries would not make us different. We would see that we are the same, that we are a people, we are God's people, and whether we speak in a Scottish accent or Gaelic, or whether we're Welsh or Irish, we're all the same, and we need to stop putting barriers up and identifying ourselves as being different.
Yeah.
But it's human nature, and I say human nature, not regenerated, filled with the spirit human. It's human nature to identify with something that we feel safe. And sometimes that identification makes us alienate something else, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Good statement.
Yeah, that was really good, Mark. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick little break here.
Can I just ask? Can I ask a question? Because I think there are some people that maybe won't understand. When you said, way back near the beginning, you were speaking about that event that was quite scary, where you felt that battle, that warring, and you said about you were going to sleep in a bothy and you didn't feel comfortable. Can you just explain to people what a bothy is?
A bothy is it's particularly Scottish, but it's basically an abandoned house. It could be an abandoned farmhouse. It could be an abandoned barn that has been taken over by perhaps the Bothy Association, which is a little bit like a youth hostel association. Mm-hmm. So, but it's owned by somebody, and it's open to anybody that wants to go and sleep there. Okay. So if you're out walking, you go in. There are a few little rules. If you use the fire, you find some more wood for the next person. You leave a little bit for somebody. So I guess it comes from the fact that if people are struggling, they're out in the cold and that, they've got somewhere that they can find refuge.
Yeah.
Very often it is just an empty building, waterproof, door, secure, fire, and whatever. But it's basic. No hot and cold running water. You have to go get the cold and cold running water from the stream.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Brilliant.
All right. So we're just going to take a quick little break here. We're going to run a advert for the Equipping the Prophets School of Ministry that we're bringing up here in September. And so we just want to make you aware and promote this whilst we've got you on here. So watch this here, and maybe you might hear the Lord say, yes, you need to be part of this.
So that is our Equipping the Prophet School that starts on the 11th of September this year. If you are a budding prophet, if you feel like God's calling you into the prophetic ministry, we'd love you to come and join us on that school and let us help you develop your prophetic gifting. If you're someone that is looking into the prophetic, then come and join this school. If you're someone that is quite seasoned in the prophetic, we'd love you to come and just receive some more training and equipping, both theologically and practically, into the place of your prophetic gifting. So if that is you and you're interested in growing and developing and being equipped and mentored, then go to freedomfireministries.com/schools and you will find Equipping the Prophets on there, and you can get all the information. There's all the information on there, and registration to sign up for the school in September. So we'd love to have you there. If you just want some more information, just fill in the little information slip and we can send you some information on that.
Yay, come on, it's going to be good. So we're excited about that.
Yep.
So Mark, we've got a question sent in here just as we jump back into this. So there you go, Gillian. How did you manage for food and water to keep you going? Brilliant question, Gillian.
Yeah, I had porridge for breakfast. I had a small amount of sugar that I tried to carry all the while, and I picked up milk. Obviously, no refrigerator, so I used when I could. And man, how did I manage? Noodles.
Pot noodles.
No, not pot noodles, but noodles are noodles and what's the name of the store? Cheap food store. Aldi, Lidl, and flapjack. I ate whatever I could at the time. Sometimes I managed to get into a pub and have a meal.
But
Pardon?
Your backpack was heavy enough anyway, Mark, without hawking tins of beans and everything with you. So what sort of weight were you carrying mostly during that journey?
About 45 pounds, between 45 and 50 pounds, depending on whether I had got a pack of beans in. I remember walking in South Wales, and I'd met a gentleman that tagged along for 3 or 4 days. We had a brilliant time. He wasn't a Christian. He offered to lend me some money because I was short, but I said I'd be all right. We called in, I can't remember the place, but we called in one night and I thought beef stew. So I got a tin of beef stew and I got a tin of potatoes and a tin of carrots and some other stuff and loaded them all in the rucksack. And when I picked it up, I thought, wow, this is heavy. Because he said the campsite's only just around the corner. Well, it was another 4 miles. When I got there, I thought the knees were going to break.
Yeah.
It was painful towards the end. But yeah, I mean, I carried all my toiletries. I even cut my toothbrush in half so that it was lighter. I carried a change of clothes, so I was washing nearly every day. A tent, sleeping bag, safety kit, boots. Yeah, I've got a lot of stuff in there. But food, yeah, Cornish pasties whenever I could get them.
Yeah. Now, did you start off with a lot of stuff and then realize, well, actually, I don't need this, and lighten up as you traveled?
Oh yeah.
I started off with a lot of stuff and thought, I can't have this. I did, yes, which was why I think my friend was concerned in coming with me so that we could get a balance over the first 4 days. So I started off with a lot and realised after the first day that there was no way I was going to carry it. Towards the end, I might have done because I obviously got stronger and I got fitter.
Yeah.
But I started off with 2 pair of boots and a pair of Crocs. And in the end, I got rid of one of the pairs of boots and I carried a pair of Crocs on the outside of my rucksack so I could just wear something free and easy at night. But yeah, noodles, flapjack, chocolate, white chocolate. What else? Nuts. Anything I could buy at the time, to be honest, that wasn't, that would give me a bit of nourishment and a bit of energy rather than bags of crisps. And I don't eat chocolate. I don't eat brown chocolate anyway, so I won't be doing that. But sweets and stuff, nah. Trail mix. What else did I start? I started off with a bag of trail mix and some biltong. But yeah, those sort of things didn't last. It was just really noodles, sandwiches when people made them. I bought some sandwiches. Hot dog sausages and beans. Yeah, anything that was easy. I did start off with quite a complex stove, but in the end, I ended up buying a new stove, but just a little burner that sat on the top of the gas bottle. I ended up changing my sleeping bag so that it was lighter for a down sleeping bag rather than a synthetic one, because it was a pound lighter or something, but it made all the difference, those little things and balancing things out. Yeah. And got a different rucksack halfway through as well, because a bigger rucksack with less stuff in was easier to carry than a small one that was loaded down.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, yeah.
I remember when I was doing the pilgrimage across Spain, the Camino, and I remember chatting to you and you said, oh, don't take this, don't take that. You need to be as light as you can, and even on that, I threw stuff away.
Yeah, you did.
I chucked stuff out. I'm like, I don't need that. And then somebody nicked my best pair of socks. I was so livid. It was like my best socks. Socks are the bomb. They are the bomb. They make or break you.
There's a lovely story about that, actually, because I was camping near Tintagel and walked down to the campsite and just threw my stuff on the floor and put my tent up. Got all my stuff. Everybody could see all that I got, which wasn't much. Tent, sleeping bag, few clothes, compass, map, phone. I think I got a solar charger so that I could charge my phone and keep in touch with people. And I went, had a shower and came back, and a woman came over and she says, we've just been looking at you and thinking how little you've got and you're surviving. And she says, I'm talking to my husband and saying, we've not brought the egg slice.
And the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
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 Wow.
Yeah. She just said the things that we have that we don't need, or that we rely on, and really, we like them at hand. And she said, you've got very little, and I'm saying to my husband, we ain't brought the egg slice. It was just
It just brings a whole different perspective on life, doesn't it?
Well, you realize, and I'm sure you probably appreciate, Mark, that you realize when you go on a pilgrimage like that, you don't need all the trappings and the home comforts that we actually think we need all the time. You can actually get by on very little and live well and actually enjoy life.
We don't need the trappings, full stop.
Yeah.
We like the trappings.
Yeah. Well, listen, before we go on, we're going to play another little video clip showing some of the journey and some of the places that Mark was at, and that'll stir us up to say some more stuff. So watch this one here, and then we'll be back in a second. Steve Bowley, this is your big intro.
This is your moment. Brilliant.
Some great memories there.
Yeah.
But that part where you walked in the church and we cheered you, Mark, that was it. We'd already been to Land's End and you'd crossed the finish line. But I remember that point where the photograph, you've seen it, where you're on the ground on your knees and your hands, and I've just got my hand on your back, and you're taking that final moment with the Lord, just praying and seeking His face on the ground before you walked in and crossed the line into Land's End. Such special moments. And what ones do you conjure up, or what brings back memories to you, Mark?
Well, that brings back some memories because, yeah, I mean, it really affected me looking at that photograph. Yeah, I don't quite know how to answer it. It was like the journey was over, but it had only just begun as well.
Because I think because I remember when that time when the video showed you walking into the church after Steve, and you're like, and afterwards I was talking to you, and it was like, I can't believe it's done.
I don't know what to do. You were like, I don't know what to do.
It was like your whole 6 months previous, you've been on a journey, and all of a sudden, it's like it stops, and
all the planning and the practicing and getting fit for the journey, and so it's like that whole year and a half of life suddenly moment came to an end.
PTSD.
Yes.
I mean, it did. It really affected me afterwards because I was getting flashbacks, and I still do sometimes, about different places and different times, and it was intense.
Mm-hmm.
It took a lot out of me for quite a while, emotionally, physically. You mentioned earlier regrets. If there's one regret, I know it couldn't be helped, but it was straight out of that focus back home. You know what I mean? It was straight out of that focus, that intense purpose to, I want to say oblivion, but it was because I really, again, I thought that God would lead me into doing something else as well, and perhaps He was shouting at me, I didn't hear, but life went back to very much what I would describe as normality. After that, it was really intense. I struggled with some of it. But I believe that God is still doing something. He's still bringing things back from the walk, because the best's yet to come.
Come on. I mean, the whole journey that we've been on, and we've been with you guys a good part. I mean, even down in Cornwall, when we went down to walk that last 7 miles with you in to Land's End, and Emma, who's on here tonight, and her mum, and that had come down and walked a few days with you.
Well.
There was people that came and did parts with you throughout your journey
that were affected.
Yeah, that were impacted by that as well. But I think overall, looking at it, it's the fact that you felt something in your heart that the Lord was speaking over you, and you actually said, okay, and you said a yes in your heart. If this is what you want, Lord, I'm prepared to go do it. And we may not ever see the totality or the bigger effect of what you've done, Mark, but the fact is that Great Britain, the United Kingdom, is different because you took time out before the Lord and to walk and to pray.
And if we look at the instance of the egg slice, that woman would never have questioned the fact of how important an egg slice is, or how superfluous to real life it is. Have you not seen me with very little camping? And I really do believe that no matter what I think about the walk, no matter what my perception is that people have been affected by me walking through the land.
Yeah.
And I might, like you say, never, ever know this side of heaven what I've accomplished.
Yeah.
But I do believe I've accomplished something because I was obedient to God. And whether I know, I'd love to know, I will one day, is not important. It's what God's done. It's what I've done in obedience to what God was telling me to do. That's the important thing.
And Mark, what if people listening to this tonight or in the future, and we're probably sitting there thinking, well, there's times when I've felt something that the Lord has prompted me with, but I couldn't do what you take that amount of time out of earning money and work and like just drop everything and go. What would you say to them?
If I can do it, anybody can do it. It's obedience.
Yes.
That's what it boils down to. It's obedience. God doesn't call us to do anything that we can't do. He gives us an excitement about doing it if we're prepared to say yes. Bill Johnson says that's the key, isn't it? To say yes before God asks you.
Yeah.
Be open to what God's doing. Say, yes, I'll do it. And then go do it. Because I wasn't ultra fit. I'd done some walking. I'd done in the Scouts when I was 19 and 20. I'd walked. We used to walk the hills around here, but not on a regular basis. I took up biking, and I'd do biking for 18 months, and then life would take over, and I wouldn't be able to get back on the bike. I do a little bit of mountain biking now. But you wouldn't call me an athlete. You wouldn't call me in any way a fitness freak that has to go to the gym. I was a carpenter and joiner. I'm a maker. I do things, a variety of things. And God gave me this idea of walking the length and breadth of the land and claiming it for God.
Yeah.
And it would not leave me. And I said, this sort of excites me. This sort of interests me. Even though I knew being on my own was going to be difficult. I knew before I started it was going to be difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went with it. And so if I can do it, literally, anybody can.
Come on.
Anybody can.
So would you, as we come to a close, I would really like you to just pray for people that are watching now and pray for those that are going to be watching in the future, maybe those that do have dreams in their heart. Maybe God has challenged them to do something and they're like, who am I?
This mountain's too big to climb.
Who am I? Yeah, who am I? So we'd really love you just in closing, just to
pray a blessing
just to
over them,
release
Mark.
a blessing over them, and just whatever the lays on your heart.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to say to all of those that have got an inkling, that have got an idea of what God wants them to do something, I pray for you right now that you would be filled with a sense of purpose, that the voices that come against you and say you can't do that, you're not equipped, you're not able, I want to pray against those voices and say, God says that you are. That's why I'm calling you to do it. Mm-hmm. It's my voice that's leading you. It's my will for your life. Take the first step, and I will put the ground beneath you. I pray that your heart will be filled with excitement, anticipation, even if there is some fear there, that it will overrule what God is calling you to do. And in obedience, you'll say, Father, I don't feel able to do this, but I'll take the first steps.
Yeah.
Amen.
Brilliant.
Amen. Amen.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So, Mark, just quickly, can you give us a quick rundown geographically of all the areas that you touched on your zigzag time of prayer walking?
Well, started off at John O'Groats. I walked over to the northwest corner, a place called Durness and Cape Wrath. I then came down from there through the Highlands to Ullapool, Inverness. I journeyed on a train to see somebody in Cullen, spoke at a church in Cullen, and then got the train back to Inverness. And then I walked down the Great Glens Way through to Fort William, and then over to, kept going, and Mull and Iona. I then came back to Oban, which is where I had a week's break. Came back to home in Yorkshire, and you and Sharon picked me up, and we came back up to Oban, and I walked down from Oban down to the Mull of Kintyre. From the Mull of Kintyre, I went to Arran, across from Arran to the mainland, and then walked across the country, across the borders to Melrose, Lindisfarne, and then I was picked up from Lindisfarne and taken to the beginning of the Pennine Way, because I'd already walked somewhere. I think it's St Cuthbert's Way. Started off on the Pennine Way, came all the way down the Pennine Way to Derbyshire, to Edale, and then made my way over to Lichfield, Shrewsbury, Central Wales, came down the Welsh coast through Aberystwyth, Cardigan, all the way down to St David's. Came round the bottom of St David's. There was my mother passed away while I was walking, and I had to have a break coming around the South Wales. I then journeyed with Steve, who came and supported me for a week, and ended up in Llantwit Major, where a woman offered me a train ticket to go round to avoid walking over the Severn Bridge and through an area that she felt I shouldn't be doing. And so I think I got to Tiverton Park railway station, expecting it to be near Tiverton, and it wasn't, but you guys picked me up there.
Yeah.
And we went down into Somerset, and then I restarted walking somewhere north of Bude, and then all the way down the coast to Land's End.
Wow.
So yeah, crisscrossed all. And if you take the main points, John O'Groats, Land's End, Iona, and Lindisfarne, it forms a cross.
Come on.
So yeah, and I didn't know that before I started. I just played about the map, and it forms a cross. So I've walked across over the nation.
Come on. So Sharon's got another question to ask you.
One last one before we close. We're kind of over, but one last question. This time,
10 years
ago, where were you on your walk? What were you doing?
I was walking from Ullapool to Inverness, and at this time of night I was walking around a park trying to find somewhere to sleep. And again, Andrea and Naomi, my daughter, went on Google and said, if you go down here, I found a little place on the side of the road. The first time I heard deer barking, and that freaked me out a little bit.
Wow. Isn't it amazing? Like, you think 10 years later and it's still so vivid, isn't it?
Yeah. So today, as Steve says, today yesterday I'd come off the Isle of Lewis. I'd stayed on what they call the dark side of Loch Broom because it gets little sun. And I'd been taken back into Ullapool so that I could continue walking. And I'd walked all the way down to Altgish Hotel and stayed in a bunkhouse there the night because I was absolutely wet through. It had rained half the day. And the next day I got up and walked to near to Inverness, the Muir of Ord.
Brilliant.
But at the pub, at the hotel, the landlord asked me to pray for his brother because his brother had got a problem, and when I told him what he wanted, what I was doing, he said, "Will you pray for him?"
Wow.
And so, yeah, I prayed for him, his brother.
Come on.
Brilliant.
It's those
Just a little bit. That's what it was about. That was what my heart was about, being like a monk, really, being like a Celtic monk, just oozing out Christianity, walking, meeting people, talking to them, saying hello, saying good morning, have a good day, just being friendly, and
just being like
incredible.
Yeah, come on. Well, we appreciate, Mark, that you did that, and I'm sure there's many on here tonight or that'll watch it in the future that'll just think, wow.
Wow, I wonder if I could do something like that.
Yeah, so I think this
inspiration. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to inspire people to go and do greater works as well. Like the Lord says, we'll do greater works, and He even did. So this is all part of it. I mean, faith is a walk, is a journey, and it also spells risk. And you took a big risk leaving family and home for such a long period of time, and you just got blessed, and you blessed many people on the journey, Mark. So we really appreciate you, and bless you, brother. We'll talk after this. So I'm just going to lead the rest of the people out here tonight. Just play this little video clip, and one of the parts on there is Kilmartin. You'll see that. That's where the original kings were crowned in Scotland. So it's quite a famous place, and you'll see it's like the footprint in the rock. When we were up there, Mark, there was such a presence of the Lord was around us at that time. There was something about that place that was sacred. And I think the Lord knows it and loves it. So
it was beautiful.
Well, bless you guys.
Yeah, bless you.
Thanks for being with us tonight.
Yeah.
And we'll lead out here with the little video clip of all the journey of Mark. Well, part of little video clip.
Snippets.
You could have about a 6-hour movie and still wouldn't cover it all, probably.
Yeah. Snippets.
Bless you guys. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.